What's up guys, this is Alec. In today's episode I'm going to be showing you the two main mistakes people make when buying new plants. So let's say you are new to growing plants, whether you have vegetables, fruit trees, shade trees, roses, it doesn't really matter, they all work about the same. What are the two main mistakes people make? Well, let's get started. Alright, so let's say you went to your favorite nursery and you got yourself an ice cream bean tree like this one right here. So you buy it, you take it home, you water it in the morning, and then guess what happens? By the time you get back from work or whatever you went, your plant is dead. Why is that? Well, mistake number one people make when buying plants, especially little plants like this one here, is not watering. It doesn't matter how much you water this plant in the morning, if it dries out in the middle of the day, this plant is dead, especially if you have it in full sun. I live in the desert. Our temperatures are extreme here. A lot of people are so afraid to plant anything here because they think the sun is going to kill it. And I always tell people, the sun is not going to kill your plant. What's going to kill your plant is you not watering. And just like you, if you are in the middle of the sun and you don't drink water, what's actually going to kill you? Dehydration or the sun? Well, for whatever reason, people think that rule does not apply to plants and magically the sun will kill their plants. No, the sun is not going to kill it. You are going to kill it. Let me give you another example. You see this guavas right here? These are Mexican guavas. These plants right here are fully rooted in this 1.5 gallon containers. This plant right here will take 120 degrees full sun all day, no issues at all. But guess what's going to happen the minute it goes dry? This plant right here actually does not have to go fully dry. You know when people tell you stick your finger in there and if it feels moist, do not water your plant? Well, I have told you that in the past, but that rule does not apply to guava plants. And anytime I sell a guava plant to anybody out there, I tell them this: you need to keep this plant wet every single day, especially if you're gonna have it in the sun. Because even if this plant goes semi-moist in the sun, just an hour to 2 hours, this plant is dead. This plant right here is native to areas where it rains almost daily. The root system of this plant right here is extremely fibrous. It is very shallow. So it doesn't need to drink every bit of water from the soil where it's native from. But here in the desert, it does not rain every single day. It hardly ever rains. So this is one of those plants that you can actually keep the soil wetter to make up for the lack of humidity and the lack of rainfall. I promise you, if your soil drains the water, you will never be able to overwater a guava plant. And this is why this plant right here is one of the plants that people kill the most from all the trees that people buy at my nursery. And it's not because of the lack of information. It's because of the misinformation posted out there all over the internet. Everybody tells you stick your finger in there, if it's moist, don't water. Most of those people live in areas where it rains all the time, not here in the desert. This plant right here, you will not be able to overwater, I promise you. Especially the first summer, you need to keep it wet. If you don't, it's going to die. And that brings us to mistake number two. All right, mistake number two is going to be building berms around your trees when you first put them in the ground. I don't have any of those in the ground anymore because I know better now. But when I first started, I will plant a tree in the ground and then I will build like a basin or something to hold the water in because I needed to deep water the plant from day one because that's what plants want and that's what's going to make your plants grow fast, right? Wrong. That's mistake number two. What usually happens is when you buy a little plant like the guava that you just saw earlier, you put it in the ground and you build a berm around it and flood it. And you think you're good to go for the rest of the day. You're not. You have to understand, most plants take at least, most plants, especially fruit trees, 6 months to a year in ideal conditions to fully root themselves in the ground before they can actually drink the water from around the soil. So this guava right here, you take it home, you stick it in the ground, you put a berm around it and you flood it for like 1,000,000 hours, right? And then you leave your house and then you come back and your plant is wilted and it's dead. And you go online and you're like, my plant is dead, I watered it, I swear to God, I swear on my mother's grave that I watered my plant, but yet my plant is dead. What's going on? And then you get all these master gardeners out there Everybody has an opinion, and they're going to be telling you it was probably anthracnose. You probably forgot to put sulfur in there. Maybe it was the azomite. You forgot to put azomite in the soil when you planted your tree in the ground. That's why your plant died within a day after planting in the ground. Wrong. Your plant died. You know why? Because this one right here, right now, I'm watering 3 times daily. Because this potting mix is drying out. Not fully, but enough to make the plant wilt. As you can see, they wilted a little bit because I got some brown tips. This plant was actually wilted yesterday. I have a customer. He was here to witness that. So if you're watching my video, comment below. But anyway, so they're getting watered 3 times daily because they were wilting. So if you buy this plant and you build a berm around it and you flood it tomorrow, the plant has no roots in that soil to drink that water. Will the plant get some water from the surrounding soil? Yes, it will. It's called capillary action. But when the temperatures outside are extreme, 100, 110, 120 degrees, the plant will not be able to uptake water through capillary action fast enough to cool off. This is why when you first plant your trees in the ground, you need to water right next to the trunk, right here where the root ball is, for at least the first summer, until the plant is fully rooted in the ground. Not over here, not a stupid basing around it or a berm. Do not listen to those people. They have no idea what they're talking about, and that is why your plants are dying. Water right here where the root ball is, and that's it. Don't even worry about the soil over here. Water right here. So if I'm watering this plant 3 times daily, when you first put it in the ground, I always recommend people water your plant that morning, and then if you're gonna be home, check this plant, I would say every 4 hours, just to make sure that root ball stays moist. For most people in my area, using a drip system and using drip heads like this is a 4-gallon an hour dripper right here. It puts out 4 gallons in 1 hour. That little plant that we just saw earlier, it's going to take at least, I would say, 2 to 3 waterings of 30 minutes every single day for at least the first summer. And that is in my area in extreme temperatures. Obviously, if you live anywhere else where you actually get clouds in the sky throughout the entire day, you got more humidity in the air, and your temperatures are not as extreme as they are here in the desert, you're not gonna suffer from that problem. But if you live in the desert or anywhere else where it's super hot, you are going to experience what I just explained to you. So water your plants frequently, worry about the root ball only, and then once your plants are fully rooted in the ground, then you can go ahead and worry about deep watering, building your berms, and all that good stuff. All right, let me give you another example of the berm idea, the basing around your trees. So this Shangri-La tree here has been in the ground for over 4 years now. I did have a basing at the beginning, all the way around, and with deep water from day one and all blah, 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 blah. But anyways, over time we realized that it was pointless, it was worthless, waste of time, a stupid idea for new trees in the ground, especially if in extreme temperatures like here in the desert. But what happens to the berm over time? Well, you see how big this tree is? The trunk is right all the way in the middle, all the way over there. You can see trunk's right here, right there. The berm is nowhere to be seen. Initially it was probably all the way to here, but the tree has outgrown that berm. So even if we were actually using it still, that berm will not hold enough water to water this tree. As your trees get older, the root system usually will follow the canopy of the tree, depending on the type of roots. So the root system of this Shangri-La mulberry, they're probably coming out all the way down here and then going straight down in the ground. So if you actually want to use berms to water your trees, you're going to have to upgrade your berms. You're going to have to push them out as your tree canopy grows out, and you're going to have to make them taller so they can hold enough water. So that way you can properly water your tree as it gets older. Am I saying the berms are completely worthless? They don't work? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying they are worthless for new trees in the ground, especially if you think you're gonna flood them and forget about your trees for the next few days. That is not gonna work in my area because it's just simply so hot. But over time, as your trees get older, if you actually wanna put in the labor and you wanna upgrade your berms, make them higher, wider, yes, they are a good idea. especially in areas where you have a slope, or you live next to a mountain or a hill or something. Like this area right here. This is an elevator area. So if I wanted to plant a tree right here in the middle, and even if I had a dripper right there, anytime I watered, all that water will just flow down the little mount right here, right? So what you can do is you can put a half moon, like a half berm, in this area right here to hold the water in, to prevent the water from flowing downhill. And that is one way that you can correctly use those berms or basins to hold water. When your trees are young especially. But remember, always water next to the root ball. Bonus content, guys. Check this out. So I told you the two main mistakes people make with new plants in the ground. But there's an additional one. One that I actually see every single summer, all the time. I get dozens of emails, text messages. You know who you are. Unfortunately, I'm not able to answer all of them, guys. I get so many of them, I don't have the time. If you want me to make time, you can join my Patreon and I will help you one-on-one. No issues at all. But unfortunately, guys, I just don't have enough time. I answer to some of them, but a lot of them go unanswered. And I apologize for that. But anyways, this will help you. The third mistake people make with new plants, whether those are in containers or in the ground, is watering by hand. Anytime plants rely on you to water them, your plants are going to suffer. I don't care how diligent you are, how consistent you are going to forget to water your plants. You're not going to be consistent enough for your plants to actually thrive. And this is the main question that I ask anybody who emails me, texts me, complaining about their plants not doing well. My question always is, are you watering by hand? And I can tell you easily over 90% of the answers that I get are yes. How do I know this is a problem? Because I did it. All these plants right here, they may not seem like a lot in the videos, but I have a few hundred plants in here, if not a few thousand plants. And anytime that you water by hand, your plants are going to suffer. Because there's no possible way that you're just gonna stand in here to water this container right here slowly for 30 seconds to 1 minute, 2 to 3 times daily, and make sure that potting mix gets fully saturated every single time that you water. Times a few hundred, maybe a few thousand, there's not enough time in the day for you to do that. When I first started, I used to water all these plants right here by hand. I kid you not, it took me over 6 hours every single day. And my plants suffered. Because you know what? By the time I got done watering, it was time to water again all the way in the front. It was stupid. And I was so tired and I was done and my plants suffered, they burnt, they wilted. And I killed a lot of plants until finally I figured it out. And I've noticed that when you automate anything, especially in gardening, your plants are going to thrive. That is when I installed my drip irrigation system. Not only did I do it for my plants in containers right here, as you can see, all my containers, or at least most of them, the ones that are staying in one area permanently, they get a dripper head like this. This comes on several times daily, just for a few minutes, enough to wet the potting mix, and that's it. Consistent every single day. And guess what? When it's windy, when it's hotter than normal, I can turn it on even an additional cycle for just that one day. Even my plants in the ground, every single tree that I have in the ground, it's on a drip system. Everything gets watered, it's on a drip system. This persimmon right here has a drip system right here. It comes on every few days for several hours, deep water, because persimmons have a taproot system. Every single time that it needs it, it will get the water. All my trees are on automatic watering. And this is why my trees now that spring is here, almost summer is here, they're looking nice. They're not looking dead. Like when I was making videos in the winter time and people were like, oh my God, look at his trees. They look ugly. Why is this guy giving advice to people on YouTube? Blah, blah, blah. because freaking winter, you're dumb. But anyways, that's why my plants in the ground thrive, even if I put zero fertilizer in the soil, because water will bring life to the soil, and that life is what will actually feed your plant eventually. But anyways, guys, that's it. I told you the two main mistakes plus bonus tip mistake and that people make with new plants, whether they are in containers or in the ground. As always, if you have any questions, comment below. If you haven't liked the video, well, what are you waiting for? And I will see you next time.